From trusted surgeon to accused killer. Newly released footage shows a man walking calmly through an Ohio County jail, hands restrained, expression blank, posture controlled. This is not how most people expect to see someone accused of a brutal double homicide. Yet this is Michael McKee, a once respected vascular surgeon, now charged with murdering his ex-wife, Monique and her husband, Spencer Kepi. At first glance, McKee's background looks almost untouchable. Highly educated, professionally successful, a medical specialist trusted with human lives. But investigators now allege that behind this polished exterior was a man harboring resentment, obsession, and rage that may have built quietly for years. According to Ohio prosecutors, McKee stalked the couple in the weeks leading up to their deaths. The killings occurred in the early morning hours of December 30th, inside the Columbus home Monique shared with Spencer. The couple's two young children, just 4 years old and 1 year old, were inside the house at the time. Despite Ohio being a death penalty state, McKee is not currently facing capital punishment. That decision has already raised questions and debate, which we'll break down later. For now, what's clear is that McKee stands accused of crimes that could keep him behind bars for the rest of his life. McKee's demeanor has drawn attention since his arrest. Surveillance video shows him following instructions, complying with officers, and showing little outward emotion. There are no visible signs of panic or distress. For many observers, that calmness feels unsettling given the gravity of the allegations. McKee was arrested not in Ohio, but in Rockford, Illinois, about an hour and a half west of Chicago, where he was working at St. Anthony Hospital. Investigators believe he drove nearly 7 hours from Illinois to Ohio to commit the murders, then returned without raising immediate suspicion. The victims were well known and deeply loved. Spencer Kepi was a respected dentist. Colleagues grew alarmed when he failed to show up for work on December 30th, something they described as completely out of character. Calls to his phone went unanswered. When Monique also failed to respond, concern escalated rapidly. A welfare check was requested. Friends went to the home. What they found was devastating. Spencer and Monique were discovered shot to death in an upstairs bedroom. There were no visible signs of forced entry, a detail that has become one of the most haunting questions in the case. Police later confirmed that both children were physically unharmed. Their cries could be heard on 911 recordings as first responders arrived. The children are now safe with family, but the trauma of that morning will follow them forever. As investigators began digging into the couple's past, one detail stood out immediately. Monique had been married before. Her first husband was Michael McKee. Their marriage, which began in 2015, ended quickly. On paper, the divorce appeared clean and fast, but police now say the reality behind closed doors may have been far darker. This case, investigators say, isn't just about what happened on December 30th, it's about years of alleged behavior, threats, and obsession, and whether those pieces form a clear motive for murder. Monique Kepi's first marriage to Michael McKee lasted just a few years. They met while attending Ohio State University, and at the time, McKee was pursuing his dream of becoming a doctor. The two married in 2015 and later moved to Virginia while McKee completed his surgical residency. In 2017, Monique filed for divorce in Ohio. Court records suggest the process moved quickly. There were no drawn-out legal battles, no public accusations, and no explosive courtroom drama. Within about 6 weeks, the divorce was finalized. To anyone looking from the outside, it appeared to be a clean break. But investigators now say that appearance may have been misleading. A newly unsealed affidavit paints a far more troubling picture of what Monique allegedly endured during and after that marriage. According to witnesses interviewed by homicide detectives, McKee was not ready to let go, emotionally or psychologically. Multiple individuals told police that McKee had been abusive during the relationship. One witness alleged that Monique confided in them about forced sexual encounters and strangulation. Another witness reported that McKee made chilling statements, allegedly telling Monique that he could kill her at any time and would always consider her his wife, regardless of divorce. These claims were never formally reported to police at the time. According to Columbus authorities, there were no prior incident reports involving McKee and Monique at their home. But investigators now say the absence of reports doesn't mean the absence of fear. After the divorce, McKee reportedly told others a very different version of events. A woman who claims she dated McKee shortly after his divorce posted and later deleted a TikTok describing her experience. She said McKee portrayed himself as the victim, claiming Monique suddenly disappeared one day, taking her belongings and their dog without explanation. The woman said McKee appeared kind and attentive during their relationship, even meeting her family. However, she also described him as emotionally closed off and unwilling to discuss his past marriage in detail. The relationship eventually ended, not due to violence or conflict, but because she felt something was missing. Police attempted to contact the woman for further comment, but did not receive a response. What investigators now believe is that while Monique moved forward, remarrying, starting a family, and building a new life, McKee may have remained fixated on the past. That fixation, police say, may have intensified years later. Monique and Spencer married in 2020. Friends described them as outgoing, warm, and generous. Their home was often a gathering place. They were deeply involved in their community and devoted to their children. Behind the scenes, however, police allege McKee was watching. Evidence suggests he may have been tracking the couple long before their deaths, possibly even visiting their home weeks earlier while they were away. This detail, revealed in the affidavit, would become a key piece of the prosecution's timeline. If proven true, it could indicate premeditation, one of the most critical elements in a murder case. The night everything changed. December 30th was supposed to be an ordinary workday for Spencer Tepe. Instead, it became the moment friends realized something was terribly wrong. When Spencer didn't show up at his dental practice, coworkers grew increasingly concerned. He was known for being dependable and passionate about his job. Calls went unanswered, texts were ignored. Attempts to reach Monique also failed. By mid-morning, concern turned into fear. Friends went to the couple's Columbus home. A 911 call followed. First responders arrived to find Spencer and Monique shot to death in an upstairs bedroom. There were no obvious signs of forced entry, no broken doors or shattered windows. Police later confirmed the children were inside the home at the time. Their cries could be heard during emergency calls. Physically unharmed, they were nonetheless left alone in a house where their parents had just been killed. Investigators quickly began reviewing surveillance footage from the surrounding area. One video, captured by a Nest camera in an alley behind the townhomes, showed a person dressed in dark clothing walking away around the time of the murders. The individual never looked toward the camera, and their face was not visible. Police now believe that person was Michael McKee. Vehicle data became another critical piece. Detectives say a silver SUV arrived near the Tepe home shortly before the murders and left soon after. The vehicle had distinctive features that investigators later linked to McKee. More troubling, police allege the SUV was using stolen license plates, Ohio and Arizona plates that appeared at different times. The vehicle was also connected to McKee's work and former addresses. Then there was McKee's phone. According to investigators, McKee's phone showed no activity for approximately 17 hours during the time surrounding the murders. Police believe the phone was deliberately left behind at his workplace in Illinois, possibly to avoid tracking. After his arrest on January 9th, police seized McKee's SUV from the hospital parking lot in Rockford. Investigators say they noticed fresh scrape marks where a temporary license sticker had recently been removed. When McKee's Chicago apartment was searched, police say they recovered multiple firearms. One weapon, according to preliminary findings, may be linked to the crime scene. McKee was indicted by an Ohio grand jury on 5 charges, 4 counts of aggravated murder and 1 count of aggravated burglary. Prosecutors allege a firearm suppressor was used, a detail that, if proven, points strongly toward planning and intent. Through his attorney, McKee entered not guilty pleas to all charges. He appeared in court via video from jail and did not speak. Despite the severity of the charges, McKee's defense did not request bond during his initial appearance, though that could change later. As the case moves forward, one major question remains unanswered. How did the killer enter the home without force? One of the most damaging revelations in the case came from an unexpected date, December 6th. That evening, Monique and Spencer were out of state. They had traveled to Indianapolis to attend the Big Ten championship game with friends. As Ohio State alumni and loyal Buckeyes fans, the trip was a highlight. But while the couple cheered in Indianapolis, police allege Michael McKee was in Columbus at their home. According to surveillance footage cited in the affidavit, McKee was seen entering the curtilage of the Tepe residence. Curtilage refers to the immediate area surrounding a home, such as the yard or driveway. Police have not publicly stated whether he entered the house itself. The footage allegedly shows McKee arriving and later leaving several hours later. During the football game, friends told police that Monique left early and returned to the hotel. Spencer reportedly told others she was upset about something involving her ex-husband. Investigators have not clarified whether McKee contacted Monique that night or whether she knew he was near the home.
If proven, this December 6th visit could be pivotal. Prosecutors may argue it shows surveillance, planning, or rehearsal, a step taken weeks before the murders. Defense attorneys, however, are likely to challenge how that evidence was obtained and what it truly proves. Cell phone data, vehicle tracking, and surveillance footage often become battlegrounds in court. The defense may argue mistaken identity, misinterpretation, or illegal evidence collection. Still, from a public perception standpoint, the idea that McKee was allegedly at the home weeks before the killings is deeply unsettling. Law enforcement officials have stated that McKee was not scheduled to work on December 6th. His presence in Ohio on that date, investigators say, had no legitimate explanation. As the prosecution builds its case, December 6th may become one of the strongest indicators of premeditation, a critical element needed to secure aggravated murder convictions. The defense perspective and legal strategy. Criminal defense attorneys reviewing this case say the prosecution appears to have a strong foundation, but strength on paper doesn't always translate to a conviction. Defense attorney Bradford Cohen explained that early evidence often looks overwhelming, but trials hinge on how evidence was collected, tested, and presented. A weapon linked to a crime can be excluded, surveillance footage can be challenged, phone data can be explained away. In McKee's case, the lack of phone activity cuts both ways. Prosecutors may argue it proves intent, that McKee deliberately left his phone behind to avoid tracking. The defense could counter that phones die, get forgotten, or simply aren't used. The same applies to vehicle evidence. GPS data, traffic cameras, and neighborhood footage can place a car in an area, but the defense may argue someone else was driving. As for motive, prosecutors will likely emphasize the alleged history of abuse, threats, and obsession. The defense may argue there were no police reports, no restraining orders, and no documented incidents.
Another major question is the absence of forced entry. Prosecutors may argue McKee knew how to enter without force. The defense may argue that opens the door to alternative suspects. McKee is not currently facing charges related to child endangerment, despite the children being in the home. Prosecutors may have chosen to focus narrowly on murder charges to avoid distracting jurors or weakening the case. Ohio allows the death penalty, but it is not being pursued. The Franklin County prosecutor has publicly opposed capital punishment, which may explain the charging decision. For the defense, the goal may be simple:
avoid a life without parole sentence. Reducing charges or creating reasonable doubt could mean the difference between dying in prison and the possibility of parole decades later. What comes next? Michael McKee now waits in the Franklin County Jail as the legal process unfolds. His calm demeanor continues to draw attention, but appearances alone will not decide his fate. The prosecution still has evidence to present, witnesses to call, and forensic results to finalize. The defense will have opportunities to suppress evidence, challenge testimony, and propose alternative explanations. This case is still in its early stages. History has shown that even cases that appear airtight can change dramatically once all facts are tested in court. For the families of Spencer and Monique Tepe, the focus remains on justice and on protecting the future of the 2 children left behind. As this case moves forward, every detail will matter, every motion will be scrutinized, and ultimately, a jury will decide whether the man who once saved lives will spend the rest of his own behind bars.